Busan EFM. The English waves come in.
All right, listeners, as promised, as I've been dying to tell you, but I was only able to tell you starting this morning, we have a very special guest in the studio right now. But let me give you a brief intro for those of you who might have tuned in just a little late. Well, when I think of allies of South Korea, the first country that comes to my mind is, of course, the United States. United States and South Korea are definitely key allies. And, well, we have in the studio right now a person who I think serves as kind of this bridge between the two countries. His name is Mark Lippert. So Mr. Lippert became the U.S. ambassador to the Republic of Korea, I believe in October of 2014. That's when he took office. And he has just been a regular presence, everywhere, all around Korea, even here in Busan, on social media, giving lots of presentations and speeches during his time here in Korea. And of course, it's pretty well known. I got this off the website for Mr. Lippert that his wife, the lovely Mrs. Lippert Robin, gave birth right here in Korea. And I hear that they actually gave their son a Korean middle name too. And some of you, unfortunately, might also remember that terrible incident last year. But anyhow, that's not why we're here, to talk about that. We are going to be speaking with the Honorable Mark Lippert, United States Ambassador to the Republic of Korea, who is visiting in Busan. He's right here in the studio right now. Good morning. It's an honor to meet you.
Thanks. Great to be here. Really appreciate you having me on the Morning Wave.
Right. And I have to say the weather is it's pouring right now, right?
It reminds me of college in San Francisco. Always rainy.
Yes, true. All right. So first and foremost, of course, thank you for joining us in the studio today. But do you come to Busan often, or do you stay in Seoul most of the time?
I do stay in Seoul most of the time, but this is my fifth trip to Busan. We'll be back in just a few weeks, actually probably less than 2 weeks. We'll be back for visit number 6, and we have made it a priority to come to Busan because there's just so much happening here, and it's always fun, always engaging, always interesting.
And if I may ask, if it's not like top secret, what's on your itinerary during your visit this time around?
Sure. This is a 3-day trip. We went to go see an Indian ship visit. The government of India, the Indian Navy, sent 3 Navy ships here to dock in Busan. We engaged in that event. A lot of fun. Indians having a good time with Koreans. Great partnership, and we were invited, so we came. We also took advantage of being down here to go to the Busan International Foreign Language School at the town hall, as well as the American Corner at the Busan Library to engage with some students looking to do a little bit more work in international affairs. And finally, we came down to have a little bit of fun. I brought my sister with me. She's a high school teacher in the United States. She's visiting Korea. And we did bring our son, Sejun. So Sejun's got to play on the beach and have a lot of fun and eat some good Korean food.
Oh, awesome. That's so amazing. Well, before you began your work as the U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Korea, I understand, looking at your long bio, that you served in the military, serving in Iraq as an intelligence officer with the Navy SEALs, and also worked at the State Department, working with Senators Dianne Feinstein, Tom Daschle, and then also with then Senator Barack Obama, also with you were the chief of staff to the Secretary of State of Defense, Chuck Hagel. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. But my question to you is, how did all of these past experiences really help to fulfill your current role as an ambassador to Korea?
Oh, well, thanks for the question. I thought you were going to ask me why I can't hold a job for very long, but that's a different question.
No, not today.
Not today. I think the answer is, look, being the ambassador is a very well-rounded job. You have to be versatile. You have to do a lot of different things, ranging from diplomacy, economics, policy, defense, engaging people. And really those jobs in many different forms gave me those skills to handle all of these different things you need to do as an ambassador. So I think it's really the versatility that those jobs gave me that really helped me in my current job today.
Right. And of course, as a foreign policy advisor to President Barack Obama, back when he was a senator, can you just tell us a little bit about, what he was like? I'm so curious, and I'm sure some of our listeners are just as curious as me.
Yeah, I mean, he was, as senator, and it really carried on to president, he works very hard. It's very interesting. He gets started late in the morning, works very late at night. The other thing that's very interesting, he is just a voracious reader. He reads a lot. And so he will read late into the evening, come very well prepared. And the thing that's a little scary is how good his memory is.
No.
So you'll have written a memo to him, I can recall this in the Senate, and 2 or 3 pages, and he'll say, page 3, paragraph 2.
Oh my goodness.
This issue you flagged. And I said, I can't even remember it, and I wrote it.
Oh my goodness.
So, but I should also say, a lot of fun. Of fun, very personable, likes sports, likes to go out and do things, really enjoys different cultures. So it was really a treat to work for him in the Senate. And it was a treat to work for him in the White House, and it's a treat to work for him as his representative here in Korea.
Well, thanks for sharing a little bit of personal insight into then Senator, but now President, of course, Barack Obama. Well, this is something that, has kind of, how shall I say, has really raised some eyebrows when the presumptive Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump, he's actually mentioned several times the expense of stationing U.S. military, personnel and installations in Korea several times. And I think it kind of goes to remind everybody out there, everybody in the world and us, how important actually this relationship is between South Korea and the U.S. So how do you kind of gauge the current relationship between these, two close allies right now?
No, thanks for the question. And what I would say first is, I can't talk about domestic politics.
Of course, right.
I'm a diplomat. I used to do domestic politics, which is very interesting. But
but as ambassador, you can't really wade into that, right?
Shoshim haseo. But I would say this. Look, first, we value this relationship incredibly in the United States. Our 2 presidents were standing in the White House less than a year ago saying that the relationship's the best it's ever been.
Right.
And, we fundamentally agree that not just because we say it, but because the deeds back up the actions. And we are doing a range of incredibly complicated, incredibly difficult things around the world.
Right.
We're getting to good outcomes, everything from working on the environment to public health, Ebola in West Africa, MERS here, things like the 1-2-3 agreement, civil nuclear. These are hard things, and we are doing them well. And finally, I would just say, look, the relationship is incredibly popular. It's popular on both sides of the Pacific.
Okay.
If you look at public opinion polls, and that's important in a democracy, that democratic foundation, because governments ultimately come and go. We're having an election now.
Yes.
There'll be an election in not too long in Korea. And what's important is the people. And right now, what the people are telling us through public opinion polls are that we like this alliance, we value this alliance, do more, do hard things, work harder together. And last, I would say, look, at the end of the day, I am confident that this relationship, especially because of its people, because of the structures we've built over the last 60 years, will do nothing but continue to grow and promote peace, prosperity, and strength here on the peninsula, here in Asia, but also around the world.
Right. So is it safe to say that regardless of whether or whomever becomes, the president-elect and becomes the president eventually of the United States, that hopefully that the relationship between the two countries will continue to evolve in a positive way?
I mean, one can never prejudge the outcomes of presidential elections. But what I would say is, if the past is any indicator, right, and it has been a great indicator in this relationship over the past 63 plus years, we have the structures, we have the people, we have the warmth, we have the love in this relationship that really just gives me great confidence in saying this alliance will do nothing but grow in strength, prosperity, and productivity over time.
Right. Well, of course, we can't ignore, I guess, the elephant in the room, which is, of course, North Korea, but not getting too political. Do you think that the current sanctions against North Korea, the ones that, South Korea has in place, U.S. has in place, of course, UN-led sanctions, do you think the international community is going far enough in terms of enforcing those sanctions?
Well, it's early. I think we've seen some good signs, but we have a lot more work to do. So what I would say this, we are very proud of the work, Washington, Seoul, working with other like-minded partners, the British, the French, the Japanese, who happened to be on the Security Council at the time, to put in the toughest multilateral enforcement or multilateral sanctions in history. unprecedented. And as you rightly point out, now the challenge is implementation.
Yes.
And we are working very hard each and every day, especially with Chinese friends who have the most leverage in this situation, to ensure that there is robust implementation and robust enforcement of these very important sanctions. Other point, though, I would say is we're not limited to just China. We are working around the world, Southeast Asia, elsewhere, to make sure that these sanctions are really as fully implemented as possible so that they can have the impact that we want, which is to sharpen the choice between international isolation, which is the path the North Koreans are continuing to go on by developing these nuclear missile programs, or come back to the negotiating table and engage in authentic and credible negotiations aimed at denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And that's what the world wants. That's the signal the world is sending to the North Koreans. And we're hopeful that over time, that choice will be realized, the North Koreans will make the right choice, and they will come back to the negotiating table and engage in diplomatic conversations to try to work towards these very important goals.
Indeed, that's what everybody is hoping and keeping fingers crossed. All right. In terms of your work as the U.S. ambassador to the Republic of Korea, what so far has been kind of like the toughest mission or toughest thing to do during your stay here?
It's really hard. I could go through a long list of policy issues, but I'll just tell you personally what's been the most challenging and most rewarding, I would say, is, you mentioned it in the outset, is the addition of Sejun to our family.
Right.
And so, my wife works. She's a senior vice president at United Health Group. That's a big company in the U.S. She actually goes back and forth a lot, works at night, an upside-down schedule. And then, so me, my wife, we're sort of constantly juggling these responsibilities. And so it's a lot of fun. It's also very challenging. And it's why I need about 10 cups of coffee every day to get through the day. So it really does sharpen your focus on your time. When you have a child, you all of a sudden realize, where did all this great free time go that I had?
True.
But it is incredibly rewarding, and we're so happy. We're really proud parents, and we're just delighted that, being here in Korea, we've been able to sort of juggle all things and really have a great time and have a lot of fun while we're juggling all of these responsibilities.
How old is he right now?
He's about 16 months old.
Oh.
And right now, he is a happy baby, but the guy just does not like to sleep. He likes to play all the time. So we take turns getting up. We take turns juggling who will deal with him.
Really? So you actually are hands-on?
Oh, yeah, definitely hands-on. Where I actually probably do the most is, because my wife works at night, she needs a break about 6 in the morning.
Right.
And so when I wake up between 6 and 9 before you go to work, that's where I kind of triage, and kind of do our best to juggle the little one. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad that you're making the adjustment to not having a kid at all, and now. Things will never go back. Well, I know that this is kind of an uncomfortable topic, but, I can't just completely ignore it. Everybody here in Korea knows what happened in last year's incident where you were attacked. And I remember, actually, we were on air live, and it was like breaking news. And it's kind of still hard to shake off that feeling of shock. But I think more importantly, not focusing on that, but more importantly, the way you and your family so graciously handled that whole incident, I think really surprised and humbled everybody here in Korea. So how were you able to remain so composed even through that ordeal?
Well, what I do probably think it had something to do with, I've sat through a number of military courses, and I kind of went through a checklist in my head. But, as I said before, what essentially happened was right after the attack, I remember the first thing that popped into my head was to be calm. Then to make sort of an assessment of what was going on in the room around you. Is there still danger out there? As you're being calm, as you're assessing, then start to move towards the exit, move towards help.
Right.
And once you get outside and as you're moving, call for first aid. Point out where you're hurt, where you're bleeding.
Yes.
And then get to a hospital, right?
Right.
So that's, that was essentially, it was strange. It sort of popped into my head, and that was kind of what I worked through in my mind. And eventually, we got to the hospital and everything was great. But what I would say, to your point, your broader point about the reaction of the people here.
Yes.
It was amazing. I mean, look, it was obviously a terrible moment, but you're always going to have, this is life, right? Humans are imperfect. The world isn't perfect. You're going to have adversity in your life, and it's how you respond. And the response of the Korean people was amazing. The response of the Korean newspaper reporter who ran out into the street, flagged down a police car, the Korean police who drove me to the hospital, the Korean doctors who worked on me. It was an amazing response, and it was proof positive that this relationship, in a very real way, works and works well and responds to adversity. So we were just so grateful, my wife and I, for the response, the outpouring of support, and it's really just reinforced our underlying understanding that there's an unbreakable bond between our two countries, and it really gave us an incredibly warm and grateful feeling towards the people in the country of Korea.
Such a tough topic, but let's move on to kind of our final wrap-up question for you. I need to ask you because, I don't know what exactly your, short-term or even long-term goals are professionally and even personally. Can you share just a little bit about what you envision in the next few years?
A great question. I don't have a good idea. I think, look, we're kind of late to being parents, and I think we are focused on, kind of building a family right now. We've spent a lot of time over the past 2 decades really working in high demanding, high stress jobs. And now, not that we aren't going to do that anymore, but we're trying to make sure that we have a good base for our family. And we're not sure what that will lead us to, but that's where our focus is right now. But beyond that, look, I think the biggest thing for me, and I think I can speak for my wife, is that we want to be challenged in our jobs. It's, we've always taken jobs that have challenged us intellectually, challenged us to do good work, challenged us either to work for the public good or work for the commercial good. And that's really what we're all about as people. And hopefully it will involve Korea, and hopefully we'll be able to stay in Korea a long time because we are having a wonderful time here doing all these great things here in Korea.
Well, thank you so much for coming in to our studio, despite the terrible weather out there. But once again, thank you for coming in, Mr. Lippert.
No, it's our pleasure. Thanks for having us. And we are so grateful you gave us this great interview here today. All right.
Once again, that was our special interview with the U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Korea, Mark Lippert. We're going to get to our next song. I know you have lots of I have so many messages coming in. I'll read them a little later on. But here is our next song. This is We Are Family by Sister Sledge.